What's up, folks? Johnny Lee Reinoso here with Reinoso Global. Don't admire, acquire. A little don't admire, acquire cold calling training.
I'm Johnny Lee Reinoso, and this is Don't Admire, Acquire.
We're just going to do a quick kind of example of what it takes to get by a gatekeeper, okay? So, the key part of any sales process is to get a hold of the decision maker, right? That's the ultimate number one thing that we all have to do. If we want to get off on the right foot and we're making cold calls, we need to get in front of, or in this case, in today's world, we need to schedule and have an opportunity to speak virtually with a decision maker, with your ultimate buyer, right? So many times if you're doing B2B, in order for you to get to that decision maker, you have to get by a gatekeeper. And sometimes you have to get by more than one person, right? So let's first back it up a second. Gatekeeper, right? Just by definition, somebody who's protecting the gate, the keys, the doors, right? Somebody who has the keys and is protecting the doors of that particular person, right? The ultimate area, the right key person that you're trying to get to, they're protected heavily by a gatekeeper. Again, many times it's more than one person. So here you'll see I have receptionist. Some organizations have receptionists that actually pick up the phone. If you don't have a direct line of communication to the right person, to the key buyer or to your key executive target person, especially B2B, right? If you don't have necessarily their office line or whatnot and you need to get them on the phone, you're going to call the main number and you're going to be found with a receptionist. Many receptionists are already trained to ask key questions like, who's calling? What are you calling about? Is this a sales call? Are you an approved vendor? Blah, 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 right? So again, number one could be a receptionist. The second door you might have to bulldoze your way through is the office manager's door, right? A receptionist could be down by the first floor. You're calling the main number. You're asking to speak to that guy or that gal in the 30th floor corner office, right? Who's got those beautiful kind of city view. And she or he will pass you to the floor manager or the office manager for that floor. Maybe it's the executive floor manager or whatnot. And now you have to get by this person to get to where door number 3 at times is the executive assistant's door, okay? And he or she might, again, be responsible for multiple calendars, okay? Or multiple executives. Right? So you got to get by this person, this person, this person to get to who? To get to the ultimate decision maker. All right? In today's world, especially as we deal with this virtual environment and this unfortunate times that we continue to find ourselves in with the economy struggling and organizations continue to fight for territory, which, by the way, let me stop there for a minute. We're all fighting for territory. A little off topic, right? We're always constantly fighting for territory. We have to acknowledge that. Whether you're in sales and business, whether you're a candidate trying to get a job, I don't care what. If you're a teacher applying for a role at a school, right? You're up against other people, so you're fighting for territory, right? So knowing how to separate yourself from that competition, knowing how to acquire the necessary skills that are needed, right? And experience that's needed, the training that's needed in order to separate yourself from your competition, right? So that you could acquire and gain more territory, right? So when we're looking at the world of sales, especially what we're all dealing with right now, it's competitive. It's extremely competitive because we're all fighting for, and I say we all, I mean, if you're selling insurance, you're fighting for the attention of that person, right? If you're selling cars, you're fighting for the attention of that, limited buyers that are out there in the marketplace, right? If you're selling software, right, and you're calling vice presidents of supply chain or chief marketing officers or heads of sales, whatever you're doing, if you're calling into these organizations, you're fighting for their attention. You're trying to get their attention. You're trying to get on their calendar. And it could be you coupled with a lot of other people. Many moons ago, many years ago, I worked for an organization and we had the luxury of doing a study around this exact activity, which is the gatekeeper's role and the level of distraction that a key decision maker at typical sizable organizations, I'm talking 500 million and above, so let's say Fortune 500 type companies, deal with. Doesn't mean they won't happen as well with organizations that are slightly below, but just hear me out here for a second because I'm going to get to my point. When we did this day in the life of study, if you will, this dialogue with an executive assistant, we asked a series of questions, okay? For instance, what's your number one objective? right? What are you looking to accomplish when somebody calls in? How do you know when to make the right decision, meaning pass them through or not? So we did this study, but here's the key question that I asked also. I'm going to get into those other ones and some research that I've done here, but here's the key question is, what is the average amount of phone calls this type of executive, okay, I'm talking vice president and above, in some organizations it's director level and up, get on a daily basis? And the person shared with me 16. I did another study a few years later with a different industry. I got told 18, because it's not just consulting firms and software organizations and technology sales. Then you got real estate investors. Then you got investors. Then you got people selling equipment, people selling widgets, people selling power. I mean, you name it, right? There's just a ton of people trying to get into that person's door or on that person's phone and calendar to have the ability to pitch and sell their services. But again, first organization told me 16. A few years later in a different industry, I did the study again and they said 18 a day. A day. So how do you separate yourself from these people in order to get by the gatekeeper and ultimately get in the ears of the decision maker, right? Which is what you want to do in order to articulate your value proposition, understand their business, ultimately schedule an opportunity for you to have that one-on-one time, whether it's a Zoom call or an MS Teams or whatnot, so you can, ultimately hear more about their challenges in business, and you could be a problem solver with that, right? So let's get into it for a second. What is the number one goal of a gatekeeper? Again, you could Google it, but by design, Google gatekeeper in business or gatekeeper for businesses, okay? Their number one objective and goal is to keep you away from them. Who's them? The executive that they're protecting. That high-level executive, because typically if they're going to have an executive assistant or a gatekeeper report directly with them or to them, then that person's high up in the food chain, right? In the chain of commands. So their goal is to keep you away from them, okay? Now, being that that's the number one goal, the second thing they have to make sure they're doing is they're qualifying you. We talked about qualifying questions when it comes to qualifying your prospect. Guess what they're doing? They're qualifying you because they need to ask a series of questions to qualify you. You can't allow them, though, we'll get into that in a second, you can't allow them to ask those questions because then they're going to go from an emotional state to a logical state. They're trying to get to that logical state by taking you through a series of questions and wanting to know more about you. But if you don't utilize the powers that you have inside of you to keep them in that emotional side of their brain and get them to pass you through, you're going to lose the opportunity. So we'll talk about how to do that. And step number 3 is protect their executive's calendar. So that's the ultimate goal. They want to keep you away from them, right? They definitely need to qualify you in order to know whether or not you're worth their time. That's their second objective, right? And the third one is to protect their executive's time because they don't want you to get by to them if they didn't qualify you, and now you're going to take up, a day on their calendar or an hour or two of their time that they didn't approve or for some reason made a mistake letting you through, right? So it's critical for you to understand that's their objective. Here's the crazy thing, that if you Google how to get by an executive assistant or how to overcome the executive assistant or how to win over the executive assistant, there is so much ridiculous. Now, I might get some backlash on this, and I'm okay with that because I've been in the business of business development, okay? I've been in the business of professional business development, helping organizations break into Fortune 500 companies for God knows now, almost 15 years, okay? So when you look at that and I know, and my clients and folks that we work with can explain to you the hundreds of millions of dollars that they've been able to generate from pipeline and as well as from revenue because of our services, then I have a little bit of experience and I can speak with confidence behind this. That if you for one think, okay, and all the training that's out there think, and they continue to sell this junk, okay, to believe that it is your job as a sales professional to win the executive assistant over by explaining, sharing, asking, and allowing the assistant to take you through the evolution of their organization. In other words, there's training out there that says, you're not to be rude. I never say be rude. You're not to ignore. I never say ignore. You are to win the executive assistant over by way of sending an email and asking them how they think you should approach the organization and asking them what they believe is the best thing that you should do, or sharing with them all of your features and benefits so they can refer you to the right person. Folks, it doesn't work that way. Okay, I don't know what world these people are in, or maybe they're selling to the tremendous masses that they can have a 30-40% of their leads go to waste, okay, because they're doing this process, which, by the way, I think will take your sales cycle from here to here to here to here, because there's no way in hell that assistant is going to move at the speed that you want them to move. Okay, so let's take it back a second here. What I'm telling you is the number one objective that you have when it comes to an executive assistant is to speak to them, ready? Just like I have in the sales videos called SAIL. You want to speak authoritatively and you want to listen empathetically. And then you want to immediately react, okay, by asking the right questions. REACT is another acronym with another video that I have. But you want to immediately ask questions. So let me get into four basic points. I took some notes here that I really want to share with you that are critical. 4 points that I firmly believe that you must follow in order for you to win over an executive assistant. Because we already talked about how they're not going to be your friend. That's not their job. Their job is not to help you get by. Okay? In fact, they feel like they're not doing their job when they do that. But if you're able to come across like what? Like a subject matter expert, like a confident person, like somebody who is in the know with their organization, like somebody that their executive should know already who you are, then you're going to get by, right? And we'll jump right into that here. You're going to get by these 3 doors. So the first thing you need to do is you need to know the executive, okay, the target executive who you're going after. You need to know their first and last name. You need to know that. Okay, and don't tell me that you don't know who that person is. There's so much information and there's so much data out there right now that you could do some research that I would say 8 out of 10 times you should be able to find out, especially if you're calling the high level, who that person is. Okay, their first and last name. It's the first thing you need to find out. And let's say that you don't have their name and it's not public, but you need to speak to the chief sales officer. Don't call the main number and get transferred to the executive assistant, to the chief sales officer, or to somebody else in that floor that then is going to flag you down as a sales call. Call somebody in marketing. Call somebody that is a very low level where they'll just transfer you right through and ask them. Play it off, right? Ask for Mike over in marketing, and when you get transferred over, say, hey, Mike, I'm sorry. I appreciate you taking my call, but who's running your sales right now? Who's head of sales? Who's the chief sales officer? You want them to give you that information so you don't ask the executive assistant and come across like you're a cold call machine or person or a waste of time. Okay? So again, you want to get the name and first and last name of the target you're going after. Point number 2 is you want to know the assistant's first and last name. Okay, you want to gather that intelligence because you have to come across again like you're somebody in their inner circle. It's not about being deceiving and lying. It's about being able to utilize a level of confidence in your tonality that creates comfort and allows them to stay in the emotional stage of, yes, I like this person, I trust this person, pass them through. Because if you allow doubt to be in your tone, they're going to stop, pause, take their time, question the hell out of you, qualify point number 2, and never let you buy. Point number 3, as we talked about a second ago, you want to master the art of sale. Yes, you are also closing an assistant. Because what is a sale? A sale is moving the person you're speaking to in the direction you want them to move. That is my definition of a sale. Not necessarily the transfer of goods for services and monies and all this stuff. No, I'm talking about a sale is when you're able to move another person in the direction you want them to move. So if you're looking to do that, when you're getting an assistant to take that step and transfer you, you're closing the assistant. You're selling them the belief and the understanding that you are worth that executive's time, or you're part of their inner circle and they should know who you are. So to do that, you have to master the art of speaking authoritatively and listening empathetically. Okay, that's point number 3. And point number 4 is you want to always control the conversation. You don't want to allow the assistant to control the conversation. Because if the assistant controls the conversation, again, I'm going to repeat myself again, they're going to go back to the logical part of their brain, which, by the way, I have a video about the emotional and logical part of your brain and how we make decisions. They're going to stay in the logical part of their brain, not allowing them to get past the part that goes, I think they're trying to pull a fast one on me. I don't like it. Click. Send me information. Click. Nope, I need to know more information. Click. I need to see if he's the right person or she's the right person that you want to be speaking to. Click. You don't want that. So you have to stay confident. Let me give you an example. Role play real quick. The executive assistant is going to be Lisa. The executive is going to be Tom. I'm Johnny. And let's say I'm in software sales. Just a quick example, right? So, phone rings. Lisa picks up the phone. Hey, Lisa, Tom in? She says, I'm sorry, who's this? Oh, it's Johnny. Is Tom in or is he still traveling? Because I know he's been traveling quite a bit lately. Period. Let's pause there for a second. Why do I know he's been traveling quite a bit lately? Well, because I might have called him many times already and I know that he travels a lot, right? In my experience, based on what I have in my Salesforce. Point number one. It could be point number two, because I know somebody with that level of responsibility and role travels quite a bit, right? And point number three, why did I all of a sudden go from answering her question to asking another question? Let me stop there again. Why do I go from all of a sudden answering her question to asking another question? Because when you ask questions, you're in control. If you don't ask questions, they're going to be in control. And if you allow the silent pause for them to think, then they're going to move you down the logical path and say, nope, get away from here. In other words, if it went like this, hey, Lisa, is Tom in? And she says, I'm sorry, who's this? And I say, oh, it's Johnny with XYZ Software. I was hopeful that I could connect with him today. Is he in? And I pause. It doesn't work. It's, hey, Lisa, is Tom in? No, he's not right now. Or, hey, Lisa, is Tom in? Look at that tonality. Hey, Lisa, is Tom in? And I pause. She's going to answer the question. If she says, no, I'm sorry, who's this? And I say, oh, it's Johnny Lee Reinoso with Reinoso Global Software Organization. I'm giving too much information. Less is more, right? Think about it again. Many organizations, when they're doing outbound calling, they call. Executive picks up the phone, the assistant picks up the phone. Tom's office, can I help you? Hi, is this Lisa? Yes, it is. Hi, Lisa. My name is Johnny Lee Reinoso. I'm with Reinoso Global. Is Tom in today? That sounds like a cold call. And then she says, no, he's not. But who's this? And I say, it's Johnny with Reinoso Global. And I pause. I'm waiting for her to ask the next question. What's that next question going to be? No, he's not. What is this regarding? Now she's still in control. And I'm going to then say, well, it's regarding software as it relates to your sales organization. And I was hoping that I can speak with him. So is he back later today? Or no, I'm sorry. Send me some more information and I'll see if he's the right person to speak to. It's just, it doesn't jive. Folks, you want to be quick. You want to be high level. You want to be assertive. You want to be confident. Just like if you were calling, for instance, when my brother calls me here, or I have a friend call me here at the office, right? And my executive assistant's here, and the phone rings. She picks up the phone. It's, hey, Monica, is Johnny in? That's it. Hey, Monica, is Johnny in? Oh, he's in the middle of a meeting right now. Who's this? Oh, it's Carlos. Just wanted to follow back up with him. You know what? Let me give him a call later today. When's a good time? You see, that's what you do when you're calling somebody you know. Folks, you got to have the same mindset when you're making these cold calls. Even though you don't necessarily probably know them, maybe they had some level of interaction with you in the past, leverage that. If you sent multiple emails and they replied at one point saying, I'm not interested at this time, call me in the new year, leverage that like that was recent communication. Leverage all that you can to help you sound more credible when you're on the phone. Notice how I say leverage activity that happened, not make things up. Right? That's important because you want to be ethical in your process, but you want to leverage it. If I send 22 emails to an executive, okay, throughout the course of the last, say, year, and he replied back once that said, you know, this is great, but I'm not going to be looking at any technology like this in 2020, but maybe 2021. Bingo. When I call that executive up and the assistant picks up the phone, my reaction, right? Hey, Lisa, is Tom in? I'm sorry, he's busy. Who's this? Oh, it's Johnny. He's expecting my call. In fact, we talked about reconnecting here in the new year. When should I follow back up with him today? I'm in and out of meetings myself, but I will step out to connect with him. Notice that. Okay, I'm leveraging what he said to me in an email. I'm creating an understanding and a visual in her mind that I'm going to be in and out of meetings, which makes me very important. Okay, and I'll step out of a meeting in order to make a call to that executive. Folks, if you're a cold calling animal and you're killing it on the phone and you're making hundreds of calls, every call you make and every conversation you have could be considered a meeting, an unplanned meeting. It's a meeting. So when you say to the person you're going to step out of a meeting to make a call, be true to that. Understand it, leverage it, love it, and move forward. My point is you have to come across confident and competent. You cannot come across like you're reading a script and like you're asking for permission. You don't ask for permission. If you want to get by a gatekeeper, you cannot ask for permission. You must direct, guide, and order what you're looking for. Okay? Hey, Lisa, is Tom in? Lisa, is Tom in? Hey, Lisa, is Tom in? Think about that, right? Hey, Lisa, is Tom in? Pause. She's going to reply yes or no. Oh, he's in right now, but he's in a meeting. Wonderful. I'm going to try him back a little later today. Is 4 or 4:30 better? Wait for her to answer that question. I'm in control. Well, maybe 4:30, but who's this? Oh, it's Johnny. No worries. I'll reconnect with him then. And you know what? In fact, I'm going to probably send him an email letting him know I'll reach out to him unless you want him to know it's Johnny again, and he and I connected in the past. You see, create that movement, own the conversation, and move forward. It almost means creating next steps when you're speaking to an executive assistant as well. Folks, you invested the time to reach out to these people. Do your best and follow these processes because I guarantee this methodology is what's going to help you close more deals, more and more deals, especially when we're out there fighting for territory, which is what we're doing every day. I appreciate your time. Thank you for stopping by. And don't forget, don't admire, go out and acquire. Cheers.